there, and welcome to The Right Hook. I'm your host, Steve Hook. It's good to be back with you. I've taken a couple of weeks off, did a big family vacation down in Florida, but I'm back, rested, and ready to roll. It's good to have you with us. We've got a big show today. We're going to talk all about, the brouhaha between the Pope and the POTUS. Pope Leo had some strong words against Trump. Trump came right because of Trump's Easter tweet, no doubt. Trump came right back with the smack talk, which is he's prone to do. And now Catholics on both sides of the aisle are kind of bewildered at all of this, I would imagine. I'm not Catholic. I'm Christian, but I'm not Catholic. Um, so we're going to dive into that a little bit. I'll give you a clue. Trump's right on this. The Pope is wrong. But we'll get into that. Also, Justice Clarence Thomas delivered an absolutely stem winder of a speech, and it was a wonderful one. We've got just a little bit of a clip of it. If you haven't seen that speech, where Justice Thomas came out and basically just destroys progressivism, you ought to watch the entire speech. It is absolutely one for the history books, and I'm sure it will be discussed many years from now because it was a damn good speech. And shockingly, even some well, we'll say liberal media types are even coming out and saying, yeah, well, that's he's got it pretty much dead to rights there. So we'll talk about that. Now, with us to do all of this is our good buddy Michael Lauber, who joins us now. Michael is, of course, from the insurrection, and he joins us now. Hey, Michael, how are you, brother?
Oh, living the dream. Happy Friday. It's almost the weekend, and lots of good news for a change.
Yeah, we've had a hell of a day today. On the overnight, it looks like Iran has now agreed that okay, yeah, the Straits of Hormuz is now back open. Oil price immediately plunged.
Yeah.
It's down like I think 10 to 11% right now. And as this trickles through and more ships start streaming through the Gulf and the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz and all that, then you're going to see prices start to fall even more so, which is good because we're coming up on the driving season. And that, of course, has also led to a booming Wall Street today. So if you've got a 401k or any investment accounts, I try not to look at it too often, but on a day like today, I find myself looking at it and I'm happy. I'm very happy. All is good. When money makes money, that's a good thing. So that's going well. And it does look like Iran. We'll get your take on this, Michael, but it does look like Iran is backing off to the extent that they really don't have many options. They've got to back off. Their strategy, and of course, this was the one that the New York Times warned about, and all the liberal punditry class out there said, oh, they're going to rope a dope Trump. They're going to get him. They're going to block the Strait of Hormuz. They're going to destroy it. It's economic terrorism is what it is. And they're going to get away with it because they always get away with it. And Trump said, oh, yeah, well, we're going to blockade your blockade. And we're not going to let a single ship, not even so much as a fishing vessel, come into your ports. And we're going to cripple you. That cost them about $121 million a day, by the way. And the blockade is held. Nobody has dared run it because they know where all these ships are. They even know where the ghost fleets are from Russia and China. They've got eyes on all of it right now, and it looks like it was a checkmate as far as Trump is concerned. Now that said, you and I were talking off air, Michael. I don't trust the Iranians, the mullahs, as far as I could throw them.
No.
But I don't think they've got many options left. They don't have many cards left in their hand. And Trump has a royal flush here as far as our military capabilities, our economic capabilities, which he said just yesterday might even the blockade may even be more effective than the bombs. But that said, the bombs are still there in the back pocket. And he's basically said, look, if you screw this deal, if you try and screw us out of this, we're going to level Karg Island, which would be Iran's entire oil infrastructure. It would be turned to ash and cinder. And that would be devastating to Iran. It would be devastating to China. It would be devastating to a lot of European countries because
Yeah.
the U.S. doesn't get any goddamn oil from Iran, do we? We don't get any oil from them.
No. Well, and Europe largely doesn't right now either. The issue is just cutting off the strait because of all the other Middle Eastern countries that we do trade with, all the other Gulf states, and that
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
relying
that's
on.
right.
So, I mean, it's really China is the main one worried about oil from Iran because right now, as we've discussed before, is they get somewhere between 20 and 25% of their total fuel supply just out of Iran. But yeah, I'm not sure. Iran has zero capability to really control the straits at this point. You and I were talking off air. We've hit most of their mine laying vessels. They still have some civilian ones that are retrofit that they're hiding in various marinas, but they don't have any of their regular military. It's just the IRGC, or sorry, regular Navy. It's just the IRGC Navy, which is not larger ships. It's mostly, again, civilian boats retrofit. Now, a lot of them, they've taken the flags off, the other identifiers, and they were going to try to use those to terrorize people to prevent shipping. Now, I'm not 100% convinced this thing is going to hold or anything like that because I do think the Iranian government, the Islamic government, is not going to have a choice. They're going to do something else. And relaunch attacks or something, I think, soon, because they're on the verge right now. Like, another thing that started to happen within the country is now you do have some of the civilians starting to kill the IRGC and Basiji that are holding checkpoints there. They're really going after them. I think it's time to take the leash off. Now, we did hear a bunch of the weapons that we'd handed over to bring into the country through the Kurds. Apparently, about 90% of them just vanished. We need to get them armed. We need to get those into the country because at this point now it's revolution in the street time. It's time to, we cleared the path. We took care of most of their defenses. We obliterated a lot of their military, their heavy weaponry, and their armament. But now it's time to eliminate whatever's left of the IRGC, the Basiji, and the Islamic government. The people there want freedom. They've burned down thousands of mosques during this time. They've made it very clear where they're out there marching in the street. So we opened the door. We helped take out the military elements that were oppressing the people and a lot of the people that were responsible for it. And now it's time for them to go in and finish the job.
Yeah, and by all accounts, it looks like that's what's going to happen here. Trump is like, oh, the people that we're talking with now are more rational. Well, I mean, more rational than what? I mean,
Yeah.
a hyena with rabies or a hyena without rabies. I mean, they're hyenas, and they're not good people at all. In fact, to that very point, they plan on executing a girl today, 19 years old. We've got clips about that. I mean, it's just really
Yeah.
messed up with what they believe over there. I mean, it's just, and that's why we titled the program Islam is basically equals the end of Western civilization, and this has a lot to do with what Trump talked about, and Pope Leo starts pulling this woke crap, saying that we need to stop fearing
What
Islam.
an
What are you talking
embarrassment.
about, man? Here's the thing about this that gets me nuts, and I want to first kind of go to the Clarence Thomas thing, but just while I'm thinking about this, the Vatican is surrounded by about a 25-foot wall. That wall was built, if memory serves, around 824. And why was that wall built, Pope? It was built to stop the hordes of Islam. The Muslims were the Ottoman Empire. They were wreaking havoc across Europe, Central Europe. In fact, over 75-80% of European countries that were Christian are no longer Christian due to it. So, and then,
Mhm.
by the way, that's what prompted the Crusades, the first Crusades. After 350 years of Christians getting their asses beaten and murdered, churches burned, then finally the first Crusade happened. And if they don't turn this crap around, there's going to be another crusade before long. I think people are getting very pissed off in the UK, rightly so. In Ireland, rightly so. In Germany, in France, in Spain, even though that government there is just pathetic. I mean, I never thought I'd say it, but it seems like Poland may be the last bastion of sanity in Europe.
Yeah.
Hungary's kind of coming around too a little bit, but certainly Poland is. It's just like, no, there's not going to be any mosque built here. Take that crap elsewhere. And this is where we find ourselves. But we'll come back to it because I want to focus on. Did you watch Clarence Thomas that speech?
Yes. Yeah.
That speech was a solid home run. Nothing he said could be debated. It was true. He was speaking truth to power, as they say in leftist circles, and they didn't like it worth
Yes.
a damn. Um, so we've got a little bit. I mean, we've only got like 28, 29 seconds of it, but this is the one that's been getting a lot of attention, even though the entire speech is well worth your time to go watch the whole thing. I think it's about 18 minutes long, maybe 20 minutes thereabouts. But
Something
here's
like that.
yeah, here's cut one. Clarence Thomas speaking truth to power to progressives.
Progressivism seeks to replace the basic premises of the Declaration of Independence, and hence our form of government. It holds that our rights and our dignities come not from God, but from government. It requires of the people a subservience and weakness incompatible with a constitution premised on the transcendent origin of our rights.
That is exactly right. The transcendent origins of our rights. And what does he mean by that? He means that our rights come to us from God, not from government. And the
Yep.
progressives, they want all power to rest in their hands. They say the government's hands, but what they mean is government so long as we're in control. That's what progressives want. They want 100% of the power to dictate everything in your life, whether it's transgender BS or whether it's, you know, whatever. I mean, whatever the hell
Yeah.
it is. First Amendment, Second Amendment. That's why they desperately want to tear the entire Constitution up, rip it to shreds. It's even being taught in some of the most prestigious law schools. When they get into constitutional law, they're told that I remember Obama infamously saying it's a set of negative rights against what the government should do for the people. And people say, "Oh, that's so brilliant." No, it wasn't. That's crap. He's reaching for more
Yeah.
power. That's what he wants, more power. And this is all the left wants. And I think Justice Thomas just nailed it with his speech.
Yeah, it's to protect the people from the government. There was another portion of this speech, another clip that I've seen going around a lot, where he's basically calling on the American people to find their testicles on all sides. Basically saying right now we're being influenced largely by outside powers from around the world, and we need to get back to looking out for our own self-interest as Americans and restrain the powers of government before it gets to the point where we're not able to, and we do end up back in essentially totalitarianism.
Yep.
He's exactly right. We have got to restrain our government. We have to get back to living under our Constitution and get government back in its proper restrained role. We need to make America states again and get away from this idea that right now, all powers derived from the federal government. That's not the way things were supposed to be. States were supposed to be much more powerful, but the federal government's gradually usurped more and more power from the states. Each state should be an individual laboratory operating under the restrictions, under the few things that the federal government has actually allocated dominance over. We need to get back to that mentality or we are going to lose our country. It's going to continue to have more and more influence from these global interests outside of our borders, especially as long as we continue to have a overly strong federal government.
Well, exactly right. And this is one of the reasons that Trump is so adamant about basically dismantling the Department of Education, because the Department of Education is a department of
Indoctrination.
disinformation. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing good about it. But nobody's educated through the Department of Education. It should be taken apart root to stem. This is what the point Thomas was making. It was so good because you're right. A lot of power has gone to the feds that was never intended to be in their wheelhouse, but that's largely due to the left
Yeah.
and some rhino types that have decided that they love to luxuriate in the power that they have accrued as well. But
Yeah.
Thomas sees right through it, and that's why his speech was so brilliant because he articulates it in such a way that you can't, any if you talk to a quote unquote and they call themselves progressives, there's nothing progressive about them. They are regressive thugs, is what they really are. But if you talk to any of them about the role of faith in a community, the role of God, and the role of family, they laugh at you. They think
Yeah.
they smugly turn their nose up at you and think, what a plebe, what a just an uneducated buffoon. And of course, they're the ones that are uneducated and miseducated. So
Yes.
I hope that a lot of people take Thomas up on that as far as starting to grow a pair. I do know that that is what happened, shortly after Charlie's death. After we talked about that last time we were together, that all of a sudden you saw this massive rise in younger generations and younger males in particular starting to attend church, and the growth of Turning Point USA and all the slings and arrows that Erica Kirk has had to suffer from the likes of Candace Owens, who has lost her ever loving mind. But this is what America needs: a rebirth of who we are, a rebirth of what it means to come from a nation that embraced our Judeo-Christian heritage. And make no mistake, it is a Judeo-Christian heritage. Islam has no part in it whatsoever and should be shunned. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
over in the UK, Michael, they've got like 50 or 60 Sharia courts over there. I don't know what the hell
Yeah.
they're thinking in the UK.
Hey, we've got some here in the U.S. now too. We need to do something about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, you are right. There's a great story over in Post Millennial this morning. I covered that 42% of young men. We've had the largest increase in young men under 25 saying religion is a core part of their life, that it is essential. That is the highest number in 40 years. We just had another story last week, right after Easter, that saw the highest church attendance. A 38% increase, I believe, from the previous year. But the largest year-over-year increase of young men and young families attending church. Now women still are just off the rails. There was a great story I didn't get a chance to cover about how they looked at the last 30 years where women have gone further and further off to the left. Men have largely stayed the same. Now they're finally trending back towards the right again. But we got to do something to fix these ideas that have been planted in women, where they've been programmed to hate men, to hate America, and to be communists, that they've been indoctrinated with through liberalism, leftism, and the feminist movement. We've got to get them back to reality. A lot of them are upset. They're afraid they're going to turn into barren cat women, and smell like cat piss. But they hate men. They won't do they won't date a man that is conservative, even though that's what they say they want. They want these kind of values, but they want somebody that has those values, but is still a yes queen feminist. Those just don't exist. And my real fear is in another 20, 30 years, is all these blue-haired moonbat wine moms start retiring. They're going to expect Big Daddy federal government to take care of them and their 18 cats at our expense. We're going to have to put our foot down and just tell them, no, you made the wrong life decisions. You ended up unwanted. You wasted your good years, and you're just going to have to deal with that reality on your own. You're going to have to live within your means. And I think we're going to have to stick to it and not cave to it.
Well, that's true. And I think that most of those women that we're talking about, because we don't want to piss off half the audience, but I think it's worth pointing out, is that most of these are college educated women
Exactly.
in their 20s and 30s that feel this way. College educated men, ironically, have drifted back to the right. A lot of them have. But not so with college educated women. And they've got this mindset that is, I knew that there was an issue when they all started dressing up in those stupid bonnets and whatever the hell, the Handmaid's Tale crap they were doing.
Yes.
Like, dude, you know what? I'll tell you what, this is a perfect segue, Michael, for our next clip. Because if you want to know, if you claim to be a feminist and you're not supporting 100% what Trump is doing in Iran, then you have no right to call yourself a feminist. Because what the women in Iran and all young people, but women specifically, go through is sheer barbarity. And not one of these Hollywood actresses will stand up and say anything about it. None of them will. I mean, you've got Sydney Sweeney out there who they hate because they found out she was a registered Republican, but not even Sydney Sweeney is saying much. I don't blame her. She's keeping her head down, but they do love to shit all over Trump, don't they?
Oh.
So I want you to hear this. This is Dr. Sheila Nazarian. Dr. Sheila Nazarian is an Iranian. She was on yesterday on Fox News, and she called the Democrats out on their blatant hypocrisy and their unmitigated scumminess about the positions that they claim to uphold and the virtue signaling they like to do from their gated palaces and you know and their big high rises in New York on the Upper East Side where they have doormen and you know they don't have to deal with any of the problems that regular Americans have to deal with. So they just go around all day shitting on Trump and MAGA men and all this stuff. Well, here's Dr. Sheila Nazarian laying the case out for what's happening in Iran, and it's kind of tragic. Cut two.
That if a woman is killed and she's a virgin, she goes to heaven. So what they do is they will gang rape her before they execute her. And it's just mind-boggling to me, this Elizabeth Banks sitting comfy in a little cushy couch on a podcast with her hair slicked back, talking about how could anyone vote for Donald Trump. Well, you know, Kamala Harris posted on X yesterday that this is a war of choice, and Donald Trump is the only one helping these people in Iran. So Elizabeth Banks, this woman, Bita, is about to be gang raped and publicly executed, and so are 3 more women. And they have been doing this to many young people. Every single day, 1 or 2 public executions. So you're sitting there on your cushy couch talking about Kamala Harris. You claim to be a feminist. You claim to be a humanitarian. Where are you when the women need you? You're a fake. You are a hypocrite. You are of no help to anyone. So if you claim to be a feminist, you claim to be a humanitarian, you claim to be a good person, America.
Yeah. I don't know how you could put it any more clear than that. This woman, and you saw that beautiful girl, she's 19 years old. She's a virgin. Therefore, they're going to gang rape her. And they've already said this. They've publicly stated they're going to gang rape her and then they're going to kill her. And make no mistake, there will be crowds around whichever lamppost they hang her from of radical Islamic scumbag, subhuman rat shit that will be cheering it on and probably helping beat her after she's been gang raped. Then she'll die. And this is what Islam brings to the Western world. This is what Islam has brought to Stockholm. That's what it's brought to London and Paris and Berlin and Dublin. I mean, and this is what this is what the Democrats are fighting to bring here. They want more of this here. They want more of it. They want to balkanize every state in the nation with massive diaspora from either Haiti or Somalia or where it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with their particular ideology, which is Islamic. And I wish people would get off the race thing. Oh, you just don't like these Somalians because they're black. No, it's because they're Muslim, you idiot. And they're not just regular run-of-the-mill see you at the football game Friday nights for Friday night lights for the high school team. And yes, I'm a practicing Muslim. No. These are radicalized Islamists that Democrats and the Biden administration, and frankly started with the Obama administration, planted all over the United States of America for one reason: to bring us to our knees.
Yeah, we should be doing our very best to make them feel unsafe, unwelcome, and unwanted. So hopefully they'll return home. Because again, it doesn't match with Western values. This is antithetical to our values and our Constitution, and they've shown every step of the way they're willing to fight us. So they got to go. We have to have homogeny here, and we've already seen the damage they've done to Europe. But to get back to the Democrats and whoever this dingbat actress was she was talking about, I'm blanked on who it was now. There you go, Elizabeth Banks. To get back to Banks, the Democrats have no values. They have no moral standards. They have no anything. There is no truth but power. It is blatantly obvious. It is self-evident that Islam is not good for women. Unless, go ask a leftist, is Islam right about women, and watch them melt down. But they don't care. They don't care about what happens to the Iranians. They don't care about what's happening here. This is intersectionality at its finest. They need the Muslim vote. They want the Muslim vote. To them, it's neat. It's kebab shops and falafel. That's what they think Islam
Diversity is our strength, Michael. Diversity is our strength. I'm so sick of hearing that crap. Diversity can be a strength, but diversity for diversity's sake is a weakness. And if you don't believe that, I tell you what, and I've mentioned this before, My wife and I were in Amsterdam just a couple of years ago, and I heard an imam basically call on a megaphone in a public square calling for the death of Israel and the death of Jews. And mere feet away from him sat the house of Anne Frank, which had a line of tourists trying to tour it. And meanwhile, right down the block is some guy saying, kill the Jews, screw these people. It's beyond a clash of civilizations. It is good versus evil, and they are decidedly on the side of evil, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, diversity is never a strength. Show me one time where diversity is actually a strength. Unity is a strength.
There you go.
And and part of it is this is backwards, surface level thinking of what the left thinks diversity is. Again, they think it's falafel carts and kebab shops. It's ethnic foods from around the world. You know what? It's fine to bring people into your country if they want to adapt to your culture, and in our case, if they want to be Americans. Plenty of people come here for a better life, and that's fine. But they need to adapt to our culture, not the other way around. This diversity as a strength myth is absolute nonsense. We have to have a homogenous culture. We have to promote and love American culture, or the country will fall apart. Just like we don't have language borders and borders and promote American culture.
Well, and this is exactly why the southern border was left wide open for 4 years. This is exactly why, because you said, it's a fanciful argument. Diversity is a strength. It is a crap argument. I agree with you. Unity is a strength. To use the old, to use the old melting pot analogy, a melting pot, we all kind of assimilate towards a common goal, a common understanding of what our traditions and morals and all that are. What Democrats want is a salad bowl where they can just sprinkle in whatever they want. They don't want any kind of, they think that any attack on like Zoran Mandami, whatever the hell his name is in New York, granting Muslims the right to have prayer calls in the middle of Times Square and shutting it down, that's perfectly fine. Now, if you were to get a bunch of Christians out there to say, we're going to give Holy Mass, what do you think Mandami would say then? He would raise hell about it. So I just don't buy them. I don't listen to them at all anymore. Because it's just crap. And I really do think that it's going to come down to a point where this is going to turn into I think in the next 10 years or so, you're going to see all kinds of crap going down in Europe that we can't even possibly imagine right
Dude,
now.
it's not even going to be 10 years. You saw what happened in Ireland over the weekend, right? With them fighting with the military already, retaking the streets there. It's already starting. It's going to intensify. I mean, I think especially in the UK. People have had it with this. Look at how much, we've gone from reform to restore in the UK. AFD in Germany is now the highest polling political party at, I think it was 27%. The people of Europe have had it, but the EU is still desperately clinging to power, trying to sabotage this movement on the right that wants to expel these boat migrants and invaders that are destroying Europe. Excuse me. God forbid you do something about it and take your country back, even though it's obvious. Like, bring up Germany again. Right now, Germany's 10 largest cities are all going bankrupt because of paying out exorbitant welfare benefits to Syrians and boat migrants and everybody else. Hey, Syria's fixed. I thought you assholes were supposed to go home. Aren't you? But they're already refusing. They're refusing to do that because it was never about temporary.
In their faith life, they think that Allah must rule over the entire planet. So therefore, they don't want to go back. They want to transform and destroy. They
Jihad through immigration.
Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. And it's so obvious what's going on. Leftists don't understand this because leftists can't stand America anyway, or they don't like the thought of a Christian nation or a Judeo-Christian foundation. They reject that. As you mentioned, they are self-absorbed. They are convinced that nothing is more important than they are. History starts every morning. Their feet hit the floor. They never look back at history. They never learn from it. In fact, they're offended by it. They tear down statues of dead Democrats, which they did a few years ago. So this is what the left does. And let's
Well,
this
well,
is
real quick, if I could finish this point on Germany real fast.
yeah.
Germany's got 10 cities that are on the verge of bankruptcy. Some of them already are because of these exorbitant welfare benefits. 10 years ago, they were bailing out Greece for their poor financial decisions. They were one of the strongest, most financially stable countries in Europe. And now they're broke because of this. They are in the gutter.
I tell you what, everybody should, whenever the name Angela Merkel is mentioned, if you were in Germany, you should just spit on the ground. I mean, Angela Merkel she's so badly screwed Europe over with this. We should all accept refugees. Stockholm, Sweden, I've talked about it. We've mentioned it before. It was one of the safest cities in all of Europe. It is now the rape capital of the world, of the Western world. Women can't go outside alone because they don't fear they're going to be raped. They're going to be raped.
Yeah.
It's utterly pathetic. And so, when people say, oh, diversity is strength, I'm like, well, yeah, unless you're a 20-something-year-old girl and you're out by yourself, diversity is not so much a strength to you, is it? No, it's
yeah.
not.
Somebody should take Angela Merkel and go drop her off in one of these no-go zones in Munich and see how she likes it there.
Yeah, well, not much, I would say. And they wouldn't hesitate to rape her either because that's just who they are.
I guess they just throw a bag over her face first.
Yeah, well, when you're the best piece of ass you've ever gotten is a goat. I mean, listen, I'm getting a little bit smart ass here, but I'm really just so disgusted with the way Islam has been taking over the planet while everybody's just kind of worried about the Kardashians or whatever the hell it is, or worried what the ladies on The View have to say. It's just so utterly tragic what's happening. And this girl that's going to be gang raped and murdered by these Islamists, and not one. Where's George Clooney and his wife? Where are they at? They're not saying a damn word about this. Where's De Niro? Hey, Bob, you got anything to say about this? They're going to gang rape a 19-year-old virgin and then kill her. You son of a bitch. And this is what they do. They preach from their pulpits. Strike me, not pulpit, because pulpit would, they preach from their ivory towers. And then they don't give a damn about what they're really saying. They're just doing it to get, hey, I heard what you said there, Robert De Niro. That was really, really good. Well, let me get a bottle of, a good bottle of wine and we can talk about it. That's all they're concerned about. They don't give a damn. It's just virtue signaling for them.
Exactly. They have no values. They have no firm positions. They have no anything. There is no truth but power. If they had, even a little bit of honesty, they would call this out, but they can't because
go ahead.
Because who are we to judge this culture? We aren't morally superior. Look what we did 60, 70 years ago. Oh, civil rights movement, slavery. We're just as bad as they are. And that's what the left says.
Well, the left is stupid. I mean, Trump got it right all those years ago when he said we don't want people coming in from shithole countries. That's why he said it. And let me tell you something. Those countries are shithole countries. That's why so many people are fleeing those countries and coming here and turning our country into a shithole country. So I think that eventually everybody's going to wake up to it more and more. And I think that you're going to see, I think the worm is turning on this. We'll see. But you would expect, Michael, that the leader of the Holy Roman Catholic Church would have something to say about the importance of faith life and Christianity. You'd expect the Pope of all people would stand up for his own faith, but he's a leftist and he won't. And here's what Pope Leo said. I guess it was yesterday. Cut 3. Go.
I know that in Europe there are many times fears that are present but oftentimes generated by people who are against immigration and trying to keep out people who may be from another country, another religion, another race. And in that sense, I would say that we all need to work together. One of the values of this trip is precisely to raise the world's attention to the possibility that dialogue and friendship between Muslims and Christians is possible. I think one of the great lessons that Lebanon can teach to the world is precisely showing a land where Islam, Christianity are both present and are respected, and that there is a possibility to live together, to be friends. Stories, testimony, witnesses that we heard even in the past 2 days of people helping each other, Christians with Muslims, both of whom had their villages destroyed, for example, of saying we can come together and work together.
Okay,
What
well,
a dishonest eunuch.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
The problem with the Pope's position here is that he's cherry picking. Sure, nobody is denying that there's many Muslims out there that don't agree with this radical Islamic element, but it
Maybe
is
they
a
should do something
massive
about it.
part- it is a massive part of their faith. The Muslim faith, which is it's way more than a faith. It's a political ideology. It's a faith. It's everything wrapped into one. Uh, but a large portion of it, the problem is, of all the world's major religions, it's the only one that's never had any reformation. It's never gone through a reformation period. They don't have a set leader per se, like the Pope, who apparently is their leader now. I guess he's speaking to them. He didn't say a damn thing about Nigeria. He didn't say anything about that. He didn't say anything about the 42,000 Iranians that were mowed down in the street by under Islamic law. He didn't mention that at all. He's talking about little tiny villages that, people are burned up and their neighbors and they're going to help each other out. Okay, good. Well, yip-de-doo. That's great. But you've got to be able to call out the truth, and he won't do it. And I think it has more to do with his own political ideology than it does any biblical truths in his case. President Trump on this has been right. People don't like the way Trump talks because Trump is going to Trump. Trump has been trumping since the mid 80s. We've all known who Trump is. But here's what President Trump had to say about it yesterday before boarding the helicopter to get to go on a trip. Listen to this, cut 4.
Fighting with the Pope, and are you worried it's upsetting your
No, I don't. I have to do what's right. The Pope has to understand that. Very simple. I have nothing against the Pope. His brother's MAGA all the way. I like his brother, Louis. I'm not fighting with him. The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon. I say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the Pope looked at the 42,000 people that were killed over the last 2 or 3 months as a protester with no weapons, no nothing, I mean, you take a look at that. So I can disagree with the Pope. I have a right to disagree. I have a right to disagree with the Pope.
What do you say to people who see that, who see your criticism of the...
Look, nothing, I have no disagreement with the fact the Pope can say what he wants, and I want him to say what he wants, but I can disagree. I think that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they do, the whole world would be at jeopardy. The Middle East will be blown up and the whole world will be at jeopardy. We're very close to making a deal. That'll be a great thing.
Yeah. And of course, now that deal it started with the opening of the Straits of Hormuz this morning, which is why the markets are taking off. But I mean, the Pope obviously just doesn't like Trump. That's abundantly clear. Trump came out and made a very belligerent, boisterous Truth Social post on Easter Day. A lot of people initially said, good God, what is he doing? It was obvious what he was doing. I knew what he was doing. I supported it. How could he say this on one of the holiest days of the Christian? Oh, spare us, please. You don't give a damn about holy days with the Christian faith. You don't care about them at all. Now, Ramadan, that's a different story. You care about that. You want to honor all of that, but not. So what Trump does is he does the exact opposite of what every president before him has done. He came out and talked to these savages in the language they would understand. Don't F with me or I'll kill you and every member of your family, essentially. And if you know what's good for you, you're going to start listening. People lost their minds. But guess what? It worked. It worked. And that's what brought Iran kind of back to the drawing board. And then, of course, once the initial ceasefire kind of went south, and he's still under ceasefire right now. But what did Trump say? He goes, okay, you're not going to deal with us. Now we're going to blockade you. So Trump is a man of action. I mean, when he says it, he does it. And I just think that the Pope is so barking up the wrong tree. One more from Trump at this same little scrum cut 5.
Iran's going to execute 4 more protesters, reportedly, including the first woman protester. What do you tell Iran?
Well, tell that to the Pope. What do you say? Tell that to the Pope.
You want to patch things up with the Pope?
That Iran is going to. Did you just hear that? Iran is going to execute 4 people, including a woman?
Yeah. Now, that's the woman that we were just speaking of.
Yeah.
They're not going to rape the 3 guys, by the way. They're just going to kill them. But the woman has to be raped, not because they want it, not because they want to do anything to her. No. This is all so she will spiritually burn in hell forever, according to their back-asswards faith. But tell that to the Pope. I mean,
Yeah. Well, again, Islam hasn't changed since the beginning. As you said earlier, Pope Leo, this embarrassment of a human being from Chicago, he ought to just look out his window at the Vatican at the 40-foot walls that surround the city to keep out the Muslim hordes. Maybe they should go back and, I mean, unfortunately, the Catholic Church, I was born and raised Catholic. They've been sackless and spineless, basically, since Pope John Paul. I mean, I guess to a lesser extent, Benedict, I think he was forced out by internal forces, and that was really the internal coup there. But since then, it's been dedicated leftist commies. No, they're not willing to fight for freedom anywhere, and they're trying to reach across the aisle with Islam. Shouldn't you guys want to convert them, to save their souls?
Yeah.
But no. And again, Islam does not worship the same God. They worship Satan. It's pretty clear if you've read the Quran. He calls himself Allah's the great deceiver. And their pedophile prophets not any better. He seemed to magically come up with whatever he needed at that time, and that's why you have all the reversals, and why it's such a schizophrenic religion. And again, it's a death cult. Yeah, it's a political system. We've got to treat it for what it is. The Pope's got to be honest about it. We've got to be honest about it. It's clearly incompatible. You won't, why does the Pope talk about putting a church in Syria, since they're killing the Christians there? Or maybe we should open up some churches in Saudi Arabia. That won't happen. It's a one-way street. And these idiot doormats are the ones allowing it.
And you know what, Michael? He mentioned, you heard the Pope Leo say, well, Lebanon can be a lesson for all of us. Look how they all get along, Muslims and Christians together. Lebanon right now is in the process of trying to kill as many Hezbollah members as they can find. Lebanon was never a Muslim nation. It was a Christian nation that was conquered by Muslims, and that's why you've got so many Muslims there now. But even the Muslims that grew up in Lebanon when it was still a somewhat, peaceful state before Hezbollah got its hooks into it vis-a-vis Iran, by the way. They want all of these Hezbollah radical Islamists rounded up and killed. Now, thankfully, Trump has put some pressure on Israel and said, look, honor this 10-day ceasefire, and let's see what we can make happen here. And Israel is so far doing that. But I'll guarantee you, Bibi Netanyahu is not going to wait around if they don't get rid of and the Lebanese government is very anti-Hezbollah. There's no question of that. They are. But it's kind of like Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico. Yeah, she can say she's against the drug cartels, but when the drug cartels control everything, there's not much you can do. And that's what the problem with the Lebanese government has been. They can't do much because Iran had been flooding them with so much money, Hezbollah that is, that Hezbollah essentially took over. Not so much anymore.
It was a Hamas stronghold not that many years ago, and it's just going to shift. It's going to be a different face, same jihad. It might be next it might be Al Qaeda's new little offshoot. But it's just going to be the same thing with a different face. You got to eliminate the threat once and for all. And yeah, you're right. Lebanon used to be a Christian nation. Unfortunately, a lot of the Christians were, during the conflicts there in the 80s, they were abandoned by Israel. A lot of them were actually left to die when they were fighting alongside each other. It's, again, one of these things we're not supposed to talk about, but that's the truth. And now Israel's paying for it. The Christians were holding the line there throughout the 80s and fighting with the Israelis against the Islamic threat there, but they left them high and dry, and then a lot of them went to other countries. They fled, or they were killed by the Muslims that were left behind. And now you don't have that same fighting base there.
Well, you're not wrong, and it does sound, at least on the surface, like Israel's government and Netanyahu's administration, parliamentary though it is starting to have some very good talks with the Lebanese government, and they are working together again. We'll see if that holds. I'm with you though. If you don't nip this in the butt, it's just going to come right back. And that's what
Yep.
Trump seems to be kind of getting at here, that we're going to, I mean, he's saying we're going to make Lebanon great again. Well, I hope so. That's going to require a lot of work. I don't think he's going to do it in his presidency. But
Yeah.
if he can get the ball rolling in that direction, and we can hold off and win, um, but that's a big if, I guess. Now, by the way, Michael, it's not just the president that has had words against Pope Leo. His own church leaders are starting to speak out against this. You mentioned Pope Benedict, who was kind of forced out, uh, and Pope Benedict said years ago that Islam is totally um, cannot be assimilated with the West. I mean, he said it. He
Yeah.
basically came out and said that we should understand the dangers of Islam, which is probably part of the reason why he was shown the door. Who knows? I'm not again. I'm
Yeah.
not Catholic. I'm certainly not overly well read into Catholic doctrine or the papacy and all that. But I do know that Benedict was very vocal in his admonition of Islam, and Leo is exactly opposite. But here's a clip. This is Bishop uh, Athansia. I can't even pronounce his name. Athanius Schneider talking about Islam, and this all comes in the wake of this brouhaha between Leo and Trump. And this is what this bishop had to say, and you see if you can figure out which side he's on.
Yes, this is very serious. Now we are witnessing an invasion. They are not refugees. No, this is an invasion of mass Islamization of Europe, which already went on for at minimum 50, 60 years, the Islamization in Europe. But now it is in mass. It is very evident. And so this is a global political agenda by the powerful of the world to destroy Europe culturally and religiously. I mean, to destroy Christianity ultimately in Europe, with the help of the massive Islamic population. And I was reading recently an article of a sociologist who made a calculation that maybe in 30 or 40 years, when it's now going on, so the majority of
30 or 40 years, basically, he's saying that Christians will be the minority in Europe. I think it'll
Yeah.
be less than that if things don't change. He went on to say that they're coming over and they're having 5 and 6 children at a clip, and they're raising them all to be Muslims, and that they're basically, like you said, I forget the exact phrase you used, but they're using immigration as a form of warfare.
Yeah, it's
And
literally
those,
jihad through immigration. That's one of the tenets in the Quran.
that's right. And people that speak out against it are called Islamophobes,
Yeah.
and which is a funny made up word that the left likes to use. But as I understand phobias, they are an irrational fear of something. Anyone that is not rationally afraid of Islam has been living under a rock for the last century. Islam should be feared; it should be rejected outright, um, everywhere, because
Should be mocked
they
to their
sure as
faces.
hell. What?
They should be mocked to their faces.
Yes, and we've been doing a good job of that today. I just really do hope that, and I tell you, thank God for President Donald Trump. Um, he may not have done everything that we've wanted him to do. He may not have gotten all the arrests that we want, although I'm hearing some bubbling up on that as well. But we'll see. We'll see. But one thing he has done, and nobody can take this away from him, is he has gone up to the number one state sponsor of terrorism and basically told them, we're going to kill you all. If you don't comply, we're killing you all, and we'll let Allah sort your ass out because we're not going to do it anymore. We're not dealing with you. And again, just look at the markets today. Look at the Strait of Hormuz today. It's a different animal than it was 3 days ago, even 2 days ago. And Trump is on the right side of this, and Pope Leo is sadly taking that same road that so many leftists take, which is just, can't we all just get along? Well, yeah, we can all just get along, but it takes two to tango here. And Islam does not want to get along; they want to conquer. And I think it's foolish to not acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, it's obvious. We don't have to even look back in history. We can just look across the pond to Europe and see exactly the intentions of Islam. The numerous terrorist attacks. I mean, they are now a daily occurrence in London and Germany and a lot of other places throughout Europe. Small-scale stabbings, other attacks, rapes. It's completely incompatible with Western society, not to mention the financial burden they place, since, as you said, they'll have 6 to 10 kids and expect to be on the government dole for all of it. Not working, they don't contribute to society. It's absolutely worthless. Send them back to where they came from. Maybe then go make their homeland great again. But that's the only way you're going to save Europe. Otherwise, it is going to collapse. And again, the left likes to pretend, oh, it's just racist or whatever. Well, no, I mean, it's obvious. They're incompatible. It has nothing to do with their race. There's plenty of people that are from the Middle East that are not Muslim that can live in peace wherever they want. It is the religion. It's this death cult bent on world domination. Because again, don't forget, that is their ultimate goal, is world domination, is a global caliphate. And they won't stop till they have it. So, same thing here. They pretend to be weak till they're strong. And then we see exactly what happens in Dearborn, Michigan, or Little Mogadishu up there. We see what they do once they have the power.
Yeah, they wield it, and they wield it against everyone.
Yes.
They wield it especially against Jews, but against Christians as well. They have absolutely no problem. If diversity is strength, how come it always goes in one direction with the left? It never goes in the other direction. Diversity isn't strength when it comes to thoughts on pro-life versus pro-choice, is it? No, that's my bodily autonomy. Blah blah blah. They're just the left is just stupid. I can't even. I don't even try and rationalize with them anymore because there's no rational thought going on there. They're just, especially while Trump's in office, forget it. I mean, they hate him so much that they would, I mean, and I'm deadly serious when I say this. It may sound hyperbolic, but I mean it. They would happily dance around the ashes of the United States of America so long as Trump got the blame for it. That's where they're at. They're psychotic in just about every way. I know we got to wrap it up here, Michael. Anything else you want to throw out there before we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, just like I said earlier, next time you run into these one of these Democrats out there crying about Iran, ask them if Islam is right about women, and then watch them dance in circles or cry or tell you, it's not a real question or whatever. But they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, well, put it this way: they loved Gaza so much, but they can't say a damn word about Iran. They won't say a damn word about Nigeria. It's all about on their totem pole of virtue. Israel isn't even on there. U.S. Traditions and morals are not on there. Gazans though, yeah, they're on there. Oh yeah, they're way up here. Whatever. Screw them all. Screw them all. Michael, listen, brother, I appreciate you joining me today. We'll do it all over again next week. Until then, I do remind you every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. It's been a couple of weeks because I was on vacation, but now I'm back and I'm fired up. So, Michael, I will look forward to seeing you next Friday. Make sure you join Michael Lauber on The Insurrection every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 to 12. And who knows, maybe I'll join you on your show one of these days before long. But thanks for being a part of it today, brother.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Until next week, have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.